Hello everyone, and welcome to this latest discussion in the RICS Tech Partner Programme of discussions with our partners and other industry players. My name is Andrew Knight and I sit within the Regulation, Standards and Thought Leadership part of RICS, and my role is to look at the effect of data and technology right across the built and natural environment. With over 130,000 members working worldwide, right across the property cycle in land, residential, commercial, alternative assets, and indeed infrastructure, data and technology has a huge opportunity for good. And on that theme, I'm really happy today to be talking to Menno again from Proptech for Good. So please do join me, Menno.
Hi, Andrew. Good to see you.
Hi, how are you doing? Great to have you back on again. And just for those of you who perhaps didn't see our first video discussion, it'd be great to get a bit of just an introduction from yourself, Menno, and indeed what Proptech for Good is all about.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Andrew. Looking forward to have a discussion about the trends this year. And yeah, I'm Menno Lammers. I'm the founder of Proptech for Good, and Proptech for Good is a global movement about property, technology, and for good. So what we are doing, we are helping real estate companies to thrive in the 21st century by connecting them with tech, but also working on the biggest challenges we're facing right now. So the big topics, are sustainable development goals related and ESG related. So that's really the starting point of everything we do, and then we connect it with real estate and technology as a lever.
Great, thanks, Menno. Well, what I wanted to do today actually was pick up on something that really caught my eye, your newsletter that comes out regularly, where you looked at the, the top trends, the top 12 trends that you foresaw that would change the real estate industry in 2022. And obviously, we live in very interesting times. We're recording this in very early March, and clearly there's an awful lot of things going on at very profound levels. But let's focus back on those trends for real estate. And the first one has an intriguing title. You call it Collective Awakening, Menno. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's a challenging one. When I was writing it down, but also the whole trend article, it was like, where should I start? And yeah, I'm really connected with a lot of different people around the world, mainly, of course, real estate and tech, but also some other players. And what I figured out is that there is something going on, an awakening. It's spiritual in one side, another energy, but also awakening, like, hey, this is how it works, but it doesn't work. So it's about awakening of the future of humanity, society, and planet Earth. So for example, poverty. There is poverty, but there is a lot of money. So why should there be poverty? The climate is doing well, but we as human have a degenerative way of thinking and acting. So that awakening is growing, that movement is growing, and that means that people going to interact and to create other things by themselves on this mindfulness spiritual side, but also in their actions. So that awakening will influence the future of how we work, play, and live, and especially live, because work, and we come to that a bit later, gets another feeling. So that's
indeed, yeah. So I suppose that's a very kind of macro level kind of observation around, as you say, I think a societal level change in many countries where people are very much more focused on those perhaps less material things in terms of money and looking at those longer term issues. Your next trend is very much at the other end of the level of detail, about actually talking about, as you put it, sort of cracking and creaking systems within real estate. So what's your main point there?
Yeah, call an industry and something is cracking. Education, logistics, the food market, healthcare, and that will also influence, the real estate industry. So the most famous one, I think, is for a cracking system, was the Evergreen ship on the Suez Channel, and then everything stuck. But it was, I think, it was more the last water into the bucket, because there was already something going on because of the COVID situation. So you see how dependent you are in these kind of systems, because it was all just in time. Now we see also prices going up in energy, and energy will influence everything, because if we make materials, we use energy. If we're creating food, we're using energy. So that will influence the prices of a lot of things. Also, the inflation, we see it's going up month by month. So the cracking system is like, I expect that we really get a reset, and that people will, and that's also, related to the first one, collective awakening. Like, okay, we have to organize ourselves on a different way, and we have to take care that we do something good. So that's the externalities. You can create an energy plant or windmill in the sea, but if you destroy marine life, it's also not doing for good, So and also we also thinking about growth, but also trees don't grow into heaven, At a certain moment they are done. They by the wind, or they get a virus or something like that. So we also have to talk about degrowth. Now we see everything is growing, but we also know that people are thinking more about, do I need all that stuff? Because stuff also holds me here. And if we going to minimalize stuff, or using less, or only using that what's very important, that will influence. And of course, when you can't buy everything because your procurement power is less, you have to make your decisions. What is really important? What do I really want to buy, and where do I want to put my money? Because that's also something. Where do we spend our money in real estate? Do we spend it on plastics, or do we spend it on a sustainable material? So that kind of choices, that's the first trend, and the second, they're all related, of course. But
indeed, yeah. No, and I suppose there's that sense that actually those externalities are really beginning to be much more visible in the cost of these things. And indeed, as you know, labor costs are going up, so everything is going up, and perhaps it is a positive reassessment of the worth of these pieces of the jigsaw. So your next one, and you alluded to this a bit earlier on, you talk about the future of work here. So obviously, once again, the pandemic has shaken that up in some respects. What's your sense of the change there in that debate on the future of work?
yeah, it's a topic, the future of work, and a lot of people talk about the future of office, but I think we have to go above that and talk about, the future of work, or the future of life, and that's really macro trend in that way. But if you have time to think more, and you're not in the rat race of daily work, and you are stuck at home, people are realizing, hey, what's really important? Their health, their family, their friends, their social connections. Because we talked about the social distancing, but it was physical distancing. We still could chat like we're doing right now, So it's physical one, but we still have the social one. So more and more people are thinking about, what's really important in life, and how do I want to work? Because if you work somewhere and they want you to have the vaccine, but you don't want to have the vaccine, you make probably other choices, saying, hey, I'm leaving, or I'm going to discuss if I can do work on another way. Maybe they figured out that they have something, a purpose, but they are working somewhere else. So they skip the job and find another job, or starting self-employed, or say, hey, listen, if I really like to work in Portugal, but my work is in Silicon Valley. Why should I go to live in the Silicon Valley? Because that's very expensive. I can do it also on a remote way, and then I can live my life on a place where I really want to live. So a lot of things, I know there are a lot of people in Europe going to Portugal, also on different reasons. But it's, you see that the digital way of working gives also opportunities, and the whole pandemic, and also the things which are going on right now here in Europe and in the rest of the world, they will influence how you look, and especially when you're not in the rat race, you'll have time to think and to feel, and you have other conversations. Hey, what's really important in life? And you see, hey, things should go different. So systems are cracking, you're getting awake. So that's the
As you
trend.
say, so it is a lot broader than just that narrow focus of what's the future of the office. It's something much more profound in terms of where do people want to do their work from, and how do they balance that, and as you say, it's fascinating. Now, another thing that you've picked up on in your trends, and as you said yourself in the title, is it hype or the next big thing, is this metaverse concept. And obviously, to the extent that Facebook even rename themselves as Meta in terms of their umbrella. I know, talking to another one of our tech partners, Epic Games, it's obviously an area that they're interested in from the perspective of using the games engine to drive these things. So I suppose that the $64 million question is it the next big thing, or is it hype? And if it is a big thing, what does it mean for us? Are we going to live in a world of, Ready Player One?
Yeah, of course. I also made my own 3D avatar already. So, um, and again, it's all connected. How I see it right now, there is a lot of discussion, also a lot of negativity, to be honest. Like, yeah, 3D space, it didn't work with Second Life, the DAO, the decentralized autonomous organization is like a community. There are a lot of, pros and contra or negative reactions, but that's the same we also had with the internet when it was coming, or, the mobile phone and that kind of thing. So how I see the metaverse, it's an extra layer, it's a social layer. Of course, we are reflecting from what we learned, and we figure out new ways. Everything is very flat in that way, and really static. We're sitting here behind our desks, have a chat. I enjoyed it, but it's also nice when you can walk in through a Japanese garden together and have this conversation. Or we say, hey, we meet each other in the Sahara in Africa, and French. So the metaverse will probably be bigger than planet Earth.
Yeah.
We really have to figure out how it works, and of course there are some great examples, and it's more like a playground right now. That doesn't mean everything is fun, because companies like Nike, but also in real estate, they're really buying assets for already millions.
Oh yeah.
So it's not like, oh, just have just gaming like the Fortnite or Roblox or Lego Worlds or something like that. And I don't want to say that all these kind of examples are really metaverse, but it helps to grow your the awareness, the adoption, and that's, so is it the next big thing? It could be, but there is always, why should we invest in a metaverse? Because we also have a lot of challenges right here on
Yeah.
planet Earth, the other hand, I believe that we can use a social layer 3D environment also for good, but that's also my optimism or my how do you say that? I trust we can do something right. And of course, there
Yeah,
is also a dark side, and there is
yeah,
also negative, and we can also abuse it. I know, but I believe we really can do things different. We can hopefully there will be developments where we can say, hey, can we simulate or can we create an environment where we can find solutions before we are doing it in real life, for example.
yeah, yeah.
So
Simulations.
that's the same as digital twin. You know, it's also a 3D world in that way. And why, if we want to do a big maintenance activity, we can also do it first digital or design digital before we do it in real life. So it also reduces costs. We really can figure things out. And I think that can be the beauty of the metaverse. And of course, we can talk for hours about it, but I think people should be aware, people should try. That's the same as the internet or digital twin or, you know, a Proptech solution. This is one of the tools we can use in the future or
So I mean,
already.
that leads kind of neatly into your next trend around, as you described it, the catalyst of innovation. So obviously there are, there's been a huge acceleration, arguably, of trends and people looking at various areas of innovation because of the pandemic and other factors. So what's your point around that catalyst of innovation trend?
Yeah, you know, when people are stuck at home and they reflect on their life and future and work and maybe, hey, maybe I should turn my architectural firm in the real world to an architectural firm in the metaverse. You know, people have space, and that means that they figure out solutions or experiencing problems and say, hey, now I have time to think and I have the space in my head. And of course, in the beginning, we didn't have any space because there was like the panic, you know. But at a certain moment, people made other connections, they interact, they got more time to read, that kind of things. So I expect that there will be more Silicon Valley garage activities around the world. That doesn't mean everything should be tech, because one of the other developments is, you know, really reconnecting with nature. So I expect that in the next years, in that way, we will see more innovations because also of the cracking systems, of the rethinking of work and life. So a lot of things are happening, but that's also a great ground to plant seeds and to figure things out.
Indeed. And I suppose linking from that, your next trend is around, specifically around kind of Proptech startups and scaling ups, and clearly the trend of ever more sums of money coming into the sector once again has just accelerated, either through various funds or these specific SPACs in terms of those kind of blank check companies. So what's your thought in terms of all this wall of money that's going into Proptech?
Yeah, you know, there's so much money available, and that also means that it's less worth at a certain moment. So if you got funded 1 million, if you don't spend it, you have 900 million after a year or something like that. So, but my point here is there is a lot of money available, but a lot of VCs are the same in that way. They have good financial people, they can do great research, they have a bucket of money, and they can measure your company, and they want to grow their power. If they all the same, and you also have a lot of money available, then as a startup and scale up, you can search for different investors, VCs, But you also get more power because, yeah, you know, there is enough money, there are enough VCs. New funds will come up also this year, and it's like, oh, okay, there is another player on, you know, and there is really a fight for startups and scale-ups to invest in. So that means too much money. And of course, if you get too much money, it can also kill your business. But they have to deploy it, and especially when you know, you probably going to higher the interest rates, you get the inflation, so they have to get rid of all the money. That also means that you can discuss other conditions, and also more choose which kind of VCs or angels you want to work with. There is enough money. So that also the point is, VCs or investors in general, they have to create a brand and making a difference. So to say, hey, we're only doing climate tech for the built environment, and maybe also define what climate tech for them means. We're doing Proptech as a whole. Okay, you're a general investor. We're only doing Series A in this specific area. But you have to make a difference, and you have to make a brand, and that's also about, we'll also discuss a bit later, you know, ESG. There are a lot of ESG washing already. We need it also to grow that movement, but they really have to choose and not only say, hey, we are investing in ESG startups and that means only reducing energy or carbon. No, but what are you doing as an investor on ESG? What is the company, the startup is doing on ESG, and how does it make an impact on society and environment? So I expect that the power for the startups and scale-ups can be increased because of the money and the same VCs, investors, and of course there are differences, but really flat. And the whole movement which is going on right now on the for good and making a difference and making impacts, also measuring the old criteria versus making impact can be different criteria. You saw it on Facebook or Meta, they went down because the investors were looking at the old KPIs. I think they will disappear or at least have a degrowth. But at the other hand, it's how do you want to see where do you want to make a difference, and what's your role as a Proptech? How can you benefit from it, and being aware that they don't blow it up, blow up your company because they have to deploy their money. So it's a really
balancing act.
Balancing act. It already was, but I think it's getting more imbalanced. Like instead of but if you have less investors, you know, they rule because there's less money, less investors, so they can say, hey, if you want, you get investment, but these are my rules. But now there are so many, so that changes.
The rules are changing. Menno, you mentioned obviously, you know, climate tech there, and that leads us, I guess, neatly into, you know, the first of a number of trends that are looking at that whole kind of area, and you've called it net zero from pledges to action. Now, obviously, I think, I don't know whether you'd agree with this, but COP26 seemed to be perhaps the most well publicized of the conferences of the parties over recent years, and that does seem to have, I think, raised the awareness even more. Do you think, as you say in your trend from pledges to action, that will actually happen? Will we really see more action now rather than just the rhetoric?
COP26 was not successful, but it was also successful about the awareness. There was a lot of PR around it, so awareness. So I think that's good. Also the two IPCC reports, and the next one will be after our show published, but that's So there will be a third. So these kind of things are good. It's on the agenda. I know there are a lot of organizations made their pledges. I expect that they're now really diving in and see what they can do. So hopefully they also reduce or recalculate. So if they say we pledge on 2050, hopefully they're going to pledge at a certain moment on 2040, because they learned, so the whole movement has to accelerate. We also have a challenge, because of the logistics and the materials. So it's not in that way easy peasy, but it's on the agenda. And if you make a pledge, you have to act. It's your responsibility in general. So there was already a lot of going on. Now they have numbers. Now they pledged. So the pressure is on. But you're not putting solar panels on a roof when you know that this year, when in 2 years you have to change the roof. So it's also you can say, hey, I want to scale up, but there is also something like asset management, and property management and facility management. So, but we're on in that way. That's what I accept. And of course, I always want to have more speed and that kind of things. But that's what I told you. The solar panels and the roof and changing the roof. It's
But your next trend once again leads very naturally on from that, which is this concerted action to accelerate ESG. And certainly, I think asset managers are becoming, I think, much more focused. As you say, that they bump into real world constraints, but with the reporting requirements that are coming in from the capital markets, from the way some of the funds are working, from some of the restrictions on the ability to rent property if it's not up to standard, from the sheer fact that they won't get the market value rents if they don't have attractive properties. What do you see that acceleration doing? Do you think it's really going to happen, or is it just people just making the right noises?
There's a lot of noise at the moment in general, and that's where it also has to start. Most of the ESG, we talk about ESG as a whole, but before we know, we're talking about the E, and then especially reducing energy and carbon, also because of COP26, and it's a big topic, and making impact. And when we talk about G, we talk about how to measure the E. And what I see and also hope that we're going to approach it more holistically, because when we reduce energy by closing all the windows, people get sick. You can say, we're making a good impact because we reduce energy, but it's negative on the S, or we want to reduce energy, but we're